Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be talking about the House of Representatives. That's one side of our legislature, the lower house, they call them, or the House of Representatives. Most of the time, you hear noise about the legislature. You will hear that either they've been criticized for their fat salaries or for the bill they passed and all the 9 years. So tonight we have invited a former lawmaker, Honorable Julius F. Berrian. Mr. Berrian, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Jai. It's a pleasure meeting you and Q family and Miss Q family.
Call.
Go family.
You're close. Anyway. Right. So, discussing the legislature, we thought that we should have a former member of the House to be able to give us the inside scoop of what goes on in the House. Also, we have joining us our FOL policy analyst, Mrs. Call Family. Call, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
And we're waiting for Mr. Sherif will be joining us very soon. And also, if possible, Mr. Kunney will be joining from Monrovia. So first of all, to start off with, again, we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Tough Talking Thursday, where we talk tough. Mr. Berrian, welcome again. You are a lawmaker in 2012, District Number 10, Monserrado County. Just tell me a little bit about that experience and a little bit more about your life as a lawmaker.
Thank you. Let me say thanks for the occasion and the opportunity to appear on this platform. And I think as we go through, it will definitely become much more educative, if not much more sensitive. Well, as a former lawmaker, I think it will be much more imperative to go into the cause of the matter as we do some summary to do justice to the audience. And first of all, I was elected in 2011 and got inducted or inaugurated 2012 in January. And I served as the chairperson on because of my background, my experience, I serve as a chairperson on banking and currency. I also serve on the committee on internal affairs, transportation, and telecommunication, and ways, means, and finance as well, representing Monserrado County there. I was opportune while there to propose some bills, and those bills were debated upon. And then we were very skillful, practical, and successful indeed in lobbying with our colleagues to get those bills passed. And while we were there, we made several representation of the country representing Liberia and pushing Liberia case to the Interparliamentarian Forum, and we did a lot of stuff, attending World Bank conferences and other stuff and like that. But
and we'll get deep into them. That district number 10 is the district currently being served by Honorable Yeyia Koluba. Is that correct?
Koluba, definitely.
And so it means he unseated you.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about that campaign. What did he tell the people, and what did he say?
Well, I think it was an unfortunate situation because, as I said, we had a drama in the district wherein at that time, I was from the CDC. I got elected on the CDC in 2011, and I was a member of the party from 2005 all the way down. And people saw the representation from different lenses. People felt that it's a place where you go to probably enrich yourself. So a lot of people say you gotta go there, make sure that to establish and brighten or strengthen your horizon make sure that you get other international connections and other stuff. So people go to the legislature for diverse reasons. So while I was there as a seated lawmaker, my party chairman decided to say, look, I want to run too. Come on. I cannot see this seat, man. See this seat, man. So at that time, you have Molba Boru, who was the chairman at that time now. So he was comfortably seated in a position that he could influence something. So said he was contesting and looking at our own political culture and other basic things of election and what sort of thing. He said he running, he got the ticket, and I contested still because I have done work in the district. I have been living with people, reaching out to the people, doing all kinds of things. And look, go to there's a place called 540. If you go there, go see the model school that I built there. Go to Gator. Have you heard about Gator on the old road? Go see the road that I put over the concrete road. Have you heard about smart road? Smart road. Go there and see the concrete road and other things. Later on, we already signed a contract for the ones on the two-ball road and with the Chinese company. We went through it to our county development fund and then go to the president came and just when he came to power too, they did that road. I was able to secure our market, you see the Juba market over there, able to make sure that we connect. We talk to the brewers. You know, that land is the brewers. The brewers. We talk to the brewer. We're able to secure that particular land and a lot more. Go to about Washington, Politory, and other places, getting people on scholarship, coming up with programs, coming up with legislation, preparing people, and a lot of other stuff. But somebody said they wanted to run. So, Yeyia took advantage of the conflict between us, and then his vote was constant. We were fighting there, and today we have what we have today. So Kawame, he is our representative. He was elected by the people, and then I just said, but the House of the legislature, the House, we have a bicameral system, where you had the upper house and the lower house, and there are two distinct functions that are separated two houses constitutionally. For the House of Senate, the House of Senate, they have one autonomous rights constitutionally, which have they have the confirmation power that the lower house doesn't have. But on the flip side, the lower house has its own power too, that all revenue bills or envelopes should emanate from the lower house. So no revenue bill emanate from the upper house, it starts from the lower house. And that's why you see when it comes to budgetary or for meeting, budget meeting and other budgetary formulation and other basic thing around here. That's why the chairperson of the House Standing Committee on Ways, Means and Finance chairs the whole budget committee. Senators and other people will be there, but the chairperson of that particular committee will be chaired by a representative because the Constitution guides and protects him in there. Am I getting you? I think
we'll get more into the details. Let me welcome Mr. Mohamed Sherif. He's our political analyst. Mr. Sherif, if you listen to Honorable Berrian, he's a former lawmaker, District Number 10, the district currently being served by Honorable Yeyia Koluba. He said, now we have, what is your understanding of the role of a representative? I know we all read the civics, but how do you see it? What's their role?
Well, good to be here again. So the House of Representatives, as the Honorable mentioned, Liberia has a bicameral legislative system. It's almost like a carbon copy of the United States Constitution. So you have the House of Representatives and you have the Senate. Right here in Philadelphia, when the framers of the United States Constitution put that document together, they intentionally made the House of Representatives the most powerful institution, not the presidency, not the Senate, not the judiciary, but the House of Representatives was made the powerful institution in the United States. Of course, later on in the 19th and 20th century, you had this sort of evolution of the all-powerful executive presidency. And in the beginning, this is what the framers of the Liberian Constitution, I believe, intended to do as well. So in the beginning, there was not many members of the House of Representatives and Senators, as you can imagine. There were only 3 counties in 1848. So in January of 1848, it started off with 6 senators and 8 representatives. These 8 representatives were divided as follows. Montserrat County, 4, Grand Bassa County, 3, and Sano County, 1 member of the House of Representatives. So today we have something like 73, I believe, or 75. I think it's 73.
73.
73, lower house.
Okay. 73 members of the House of Representatives and 30 senators. The House of Representatives is extremely important. Their role include making legislation, something the Honorable mentioned earlier, making legislations. They have oversight responsibilities. That's why you have all these committees in the House. They also have the responsibility. I don't know if they know it or not, Dennis. They have the responsibility to represent the people who elected them. They have that task to represent their constituencies. They must interact with their constituencies. They must interact with their voters. They must go out to talk to them, listen to them, take their views into consideration, take their recommendations into consideration, take their requests into consideration. And it is on the basis of this, all these recommendations from the people, that they must now go back to Capitol Hill and formulate public policy around those recommendations, around those issues, around those concerns. In the case of Liberia, however, it is very unfortunate that the direct representatives of the people, because the House of Representatives is supposed to be the direct representative of the people. Unfortunately, when it comes to Liberia, that is not the case. It doesn't seem like, because there doesn't seem to be this sort of interaction with the people. And lastly, Dennis, one of the things, and I know as we keep going with this discussion, I'm going to add more to this. But one of the things that I see troubling is the sort of unresponsive, what I call unresponsive nature of the House of Representatives. This is unresponsive democracy. What do I mean by that? They're elected for 6 years. This is too long. This is unacceptable. 6 years is too long. In 6 years, a lot can happen in 6 years. And because of the long term that they have to serve, they're far removed from the reality. You have someone going to the House of Representatives for 6 years. I mean, they don't care. From year 1 to year 5, they can care less about the needs of the people. And so in year 6, they're going to come around with different projects and different things in election year. And so that is unresponsive democracy. They're not in touch with the needs of the Liberian people. I just hope that there will come a time that a representative will get up and say that this needs
we'll get into the details, Mr. Sherif. Let me go to call the House is very important. Tell me, first of all, how important is the role of the House of Representatives, and how do you square that in the face of what we have today in Liberia?
So we're a republic. Being a republic basically means that you're a democracy with direct representation. And the House of Representatives, the legislative branch, so not just the House, but the House and the Senate combined, have more power only because they're the ultimate branch of the triune government, the three-branch government that is able to exercise the trump card when it comes to the game of checks and balances of power. So the U.S. Constitution is actually built on ancient African civilization, where they had checks and balances of power, and they had a council of elders you could trump the emperor, for example, in some of our ancient empires. So you had a council of elders or priests that were able to trump, and the Greeks borrowed this, and then the Romans, and then eventually it ended up, the West owns this sense of a republican government, but it's rooted in ancient African civilizations. I say that to say it's not strange to us to have this need to have a council of wise people to be that ultimate check and balance against a potential dictatorial head of state. In those days, it would be an emperor of some sort. So this legislative branch is supposed to be the house of wisdom. People think of the judiciary branch as being this. The judiciary branch doesn't write law. They just interpret law. And it is the House of Representatives that basically creates the state, because it is a country that is built upon laws. Their only responsibility is law. It is to create the basis for the state, recreate the basis of the state in reaction or in response to what the citizens want. So as the citizens grow and evolve, so too shall the laws and the mechanism for which the citizens push their country forward and advance the cause of their state is through the direct representation of wisdom, of these wise women and men. And so we can call it what we will, but I need to explain what it is in no uncertain terms, that this place, they call these men and women honorable for a reason. It is because they are supposed to be the wisest of all. So when we send someone, when we elect someone, it is the greatest honor. We are telling this person that this individual is not there to build schools for us. This person is not there to supply rice to us. They're not there to build roads for us. They are there to lay the legal foundation of the state. They are there to advance the cause, the fundamental cause of our nationhood. It is not the president. It is not the judiciary. It is this council of wisdom that we have that we call the legislative branch. What has happened? Because the voters are not aware of the responsibilities of the legislature, we come from people, all of us do, from people who think, we've been conditioned to believe, that the legislative branch they're like mini, presidents or extensions of the executive, that they're there to do functional things, build roads, build schools. That's not their job. It's not their job.
Cole, you put a lot on the table. I want to bring in the Honorable Julius Berrian. Since he's here, because this is so, Honorable Berrian, I'm going to ask you a few questions, first before I get your take and response. What motivated you to run for the House? And in general, what is the motivation of most Liberians running for House of Representatives? We see let me stop it there.
I wouldn't speak for all Liberians. I don't know. I do not understand what are given birth to their ambition, but I will speak for myself. The basic thing that took me to the House over there was service to people, service to nations.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I've listened to all my colleagues on the platform here.
I want you to respond. I want to clear a few things before you respond to them. The second thing I want to ask you is, what is it that voters want? I mean, you ran a campaign and you have followed other campaigns. What is it that you ran on, or what is it that the voters need that when you say it, they are voting for you? What is it?
There are different things. Let me tell you something. I think Liberia's system, our system, we do not have a culture where people vote only on platform. That's one of the losses our electorates do have. And And look, some of us have given our platform, so you're very unique and other things and that. Look, if you just take, I'll be very factual with you here. But before coming to the other aspect of thing here, probably you just took a man who has all of the credential and he can easily better represent the people everywhere. And he presents his platform. The society is not prepared adequately because why? When it comes to our service, it is our preparation for our service, we perform decimally, you know, they elected themselves. So that's why I want to be the person that even proposed that through legislation and other things that the Constitution should be taught in school. So the Constitution should be taught. Is that adequately taught? People when they go teach service and say, okay, well, they just run over it. So we need to develop a program, a curriculum from grade 6 to middle school, even to have, because once you have a good foundation on the organic law of your state, it just doesn't even prepare. It just doesn't only prepare you for office. It also gives birth to patriotism and other stuff. You know, yeah. So that's one of the problems I think our forefathers made. But I was there. I made such a proposal, made such a legislation. I did that, and that's it. But no, we need to understand the thing here. I'm discussing the thing from two perspectives. I'm looking at the theory, the legislative theory, right? And I'm looking at the legislative culture. We have to understand this thing here now. Are you getting me?
Right. So when you get on the ground, what the people want is not really what is
no. Listen to me. Listen. For what I observe now, for me, I give my platform to the people. I said, look, when I get to the house over there, the 3 cardinal functions, lawmaking, oversight, equal representation, I'm going to do this thing. And I spell it out. I broke it down. I demonstrated how I would have done it. And I did it. Definitely. Go back to the record. You will see what are all the things that Berrian did. And it's there. But there's something about us that we need to understand. And if we do not understand it, to correct it, Liberia will continue to have, I don't want to say bad people being elected into good office or people that are not prepared into good office. Because, look, the culture of coins, people are not looking at platform. Most of the people I have observed for the period of time, look, yeah. Can you imagine somebody when you have got, I went to a program, sold myself, sold my platform, did every other thing, and afterward, in conclusion, you know what I heard? They said, okay, everybody will feel that he's so doing, okay, quote unquote, he's so doing, you know the he's so doing of me?
No.
Or attempting, look, girl, what is on the table for us? What can we get? What are you leaving onto us? What can we get now? So for all the things I said, yeah, they understood it, but to make it much more acceptable, they're looking at what to do. And there were now a lot of people exploit the situation. Right. Those who have cash, they go there and it's plastic cash. They say 1 or 2 things. They call B-Band and this one. And after all of the excitement, the people go, look back, nothing is done. And that's where the problem is. That one aspect there, that's the problem with our electorates and other things. We need to sensitize them. We need to teach our.
Let me just get one thing clear. You are saying basically, platform doesn't make you to win election. You have to give money.
Platform doesn't only make you to win election in Liberia.
But what makes you to win?
Put me on record for this. Tell me, platform alone doesn't make you to win election in Liberia. I'm speaking as a politician. Right. I've gone there. I've been there and done that. I've seen, I have the experience. I've seen other things. I've gone to the 11th breath of Liberia politically. I've seen things. I'm not talking theory yet. Right. I'm talking from practical experience.
So in practice, you have to give them money and buy stuff.
Some of the things people, look, come on, look. I leave, look at me, I'll tell you something serious. I leave from here, or somebody has some that here, a guy who has $1 million, he's not as sophisticated like Julius Berrian. He doesn't understand the chemistry legislatively. He doesn't prevent no platform. I go there, I present a unique platform to my people. But I don't have money.
Okay.
The man who comes, the man that comes that from over there, but he's not literate, he's not qualified. You know that he's not to do. Probably I left pretty close to budget about $2,000. The man go tell people, say, oh my man. And I thought once in the reality, my people, when I'm going over there, those are things I will do. So I will start from here right now. So imagine before my town hall meeting, I spent pretty close for $2,000 as I said. People came, set the PA system, and sold my vision. The man came, the other person came, boom. He said, hello, my people. I'm not here for tautology. I mean, you say in a Liberian talk. He came and said, I'm not here for tautology. I'm a practical man. I am telling you, when I go to that House of Representatives over there, everybody here will be smiling. But before I go there, guess what? I will demonstrate Yeyia. So other people who talking about that, they go, yeah, we have to probably go to part of them and put $10,000 down. The whole meeting. So I was there. Right. Is there. We have presented a unique platform.
So before I go to the others, how do Liberians perceive the House of Representatives? Place that you go and make money?
But that is the problem. That's one of the problems I've had. Look, the legislature is not the place for grab and go.
But how do Liberians look at it?
It is a platform where, that's why I said we need to get back to the drawing board, legislate other policies, put it in place to change the dynamic. Because if there is no change in paradigm in terms of the mindset or how we perceive the legislature to be, our representatives and senators to be, trust me, it will be, you put the bid down and you will catch the turn and people will go. So the first way to change the country is to change the concept by legislation. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm coming.
So how do voters perceive the legislature?
From diverse fronts, from different fronts. Look, brother, because of the situation in the country, economic situation, because ignorant at the same time again, people have diverse view for the legislature. One of the views that people have, look, my brother, the man go over there, our man got to go over there. And can you imagine that people say over there, I can go to the legislature because I want to get paid? Somebody go to the place where they want to become representative because they want to make money. They want to, somebody say, because I want to pay my house, I want to travel in America, I want to do. Somebody said, look, I heard a lot, I have seen a lot. That's what I said, look. When we are discussing the legislature, we just discuss the legislature in isolation of the electorates. We need to discuss the electorates. We need to discuss prior to an individual going to the legislature. Then we need to get to understand the dialectics on the flow. What happens? Yeah. Let me tell you.
And that's the next question I'm coming to.
The legislature over there, it is the place where the minority will have the say and the majority will have the will. It's where the legislature is the place where the minority will have the say and the majority will have the will. You will say, but once you don't have the number to do things, so many people have to follow the wind because look, that place is about interest. Second comes the legislature becomes a place of interest because why? People are looking to be re-elected. People are looking to where in there their district can be equitably represented and have a share of the power.
Thank you.
It's not only all about to do. As we make law, as we have equal representation and representative people have oversight and do other basic things, but at the same time, competing interest is there. And so that's what I want us to see. Look, as we discuss the legislature, we all know that we understand the social, political nature, economic nature, and social with every other basic issue. But we have to understand the culture of the in totals. Discuss the legislature from the embryo stage, what goes on behind the scene, what are the things that are being done over there, and how our people, the philosophy, the mindset of our people. There's a thing. So let's not look at it from the
Thank you. And that's why we'll come to. Let me go to call. Call, look, we have a problem here. From what the former lawmaker is saying is you can read the Constitution and say this is the rule, but that's not what the people are going for. That's a problem. Don't you agree?
That's one of the problems.
it's the representatives themselves represent the people. So they themselves, for the most part, majority of them buy into this. I'm going to give you an example of, the incorrectness of how they exercise their responsibilities. We talk about equal representation. That's a lie. So the legislature exists outside of the constitutional framework because there is no equal representation. For example, the county of Montserrat has 17 seats, 17 districts, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
Yes, 17. Yeah.
17. And there's a 1.15 million people living in Montserrat. So that gives you about 68,000 people per representative, per honorable, right? Per representative. And then if you go and look at Bomi, which has about 82,000 people, they have 4 representatives. And so let me just do a quick math here. So at Bomi, 4 representatives, you're looking at about, what is that, about 20,000, something like that?
Yeah.
So if you live in Bomi, if you're a citizen of Liberia, you're from Bomi, you have twice the representation of a citizen from Montserrat. This is a grave constitutional violation. We exist in this on a regular basis. Nobody questions it. We just go along like it's normal. And it is a grave constitutional violation. We have a judiciary. We have the lawmakers themselves sitting there. They signed off on this redistricting. They agreed to this just before, the 2011 election, assigning all of these seats to people because people wanted jobs that pay exorbitantly, not because they wanted equal representation. So this is a grave constitutional violation. And if we had real political activists in that country, this would be, the citizens should bring a lawsuit against the legislative branch for this. It's a grave violation of the Constitution. How is it that a person in Montserrat is only half the citizen of someone living in Bomi or Grand Cru? How do they reconcile that? So then we talk about, the citizens want rights, the citizens want this. It is not, listen, if the people who raise their hands and say they want to run for office intend to do the right thing, it is not difficult to do the right thing. It is not difficult to say, yes, we are going to make sure that you get something out of this. We're going to hold the executive branch to the fire so they can do their job. Because even if the citizen doesn't know that the correct constitutional way for them to get a bridge or a road or a school is through the executive branch, through laws and through checks and balances and through the legislature calling, the education minister, calling the finance minister, calling the mayors, calling the superintendents and saying, what have you done with county development funds? What did you do with the budget allocations for education? What did you do with the budget allocation for health? If the citizens don't know the how, you know what they want. Your job is to do it correctly. It's not to say they want me to take it from my pocket. It's to say, okay, yes, I am empowered to deliver what you want correctly. And what is the correct process? You have extreme power. You can summon the president and you can work with the Senate and say, you know what, don't confirm these people because they're not capable of doing what my constituents need.
Carl, before you go far, right, you were talking about a representation. According to what our law says, should be 20,000 persons to one representative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying...
I didn't say what it should be.
Article 80D of the Librarians Constitution that says that. Thank you for highlighting that.
What I'm saying is, Dennis, the House of Representatives has the power to change what that number is. They have a constitutional power to change what that number is. They can say it's no longer because of the resources. We don't have enough money to make it. The population has grown so much. We don't have the money for this many legislatures. They can say it's 100,000 people. They can pass a referendum and say it's 100,000 people, and the citizens can vote on it and say, yes, 100,000 people per representative. They have the power to do that. They can say 200,000 citizens per representative because we don't have the resources to pay all these people and call them lawmakers. And the citizens can vote on it vote on the referendum and pass it. What the problem is that they redistricted and created a grave imbalance in representation among the population, which is a blatant violation of our Constitution. So they exist illegally.
Right. And is that violation? I want to clarify. I didn't get it. What is that imbalance?
We're supposed to have equal representation. If a citizen living in Montserrado County has, what was it? I just did the calculation, has 67,000 people for every one representative. And someone living in another county has 23,000 people for every one representative. That is a grave constitutional violation. It creates unequal representation. And that goes against everything that the Constitution stands for. It unravels the very republic itself. Because the point of having a country, a democratic country, a republic, the whole basis is equality and equal representation. You cannot have that kind of grave imbalance and the government function correctly. And we have all of these educated people in Liberia, all these lawyers, all these politicians, political analysts, nobody wants to talk about that. We just go around like it's normal. It is not normal. The moment that this happens, it unravels the Constitution. This is a constitutional crisis. Nobody talks about it. It has been this way since 2011.
Thank you. Mr. Berrian, you want to respond?
Look, I sit on this panel as one of the panelists as a veteran that comes with experience and reservoir of knowledge. And I feel it would be unfair that to give our sister the latitude to discuss this thing when the basis isn't there. The thing is that, look, when you discuss an issue, it borders on the constitutionality of the state. When the Constitution Article 80D speaks about 20,000 and the threshold is set is 100. It's 100. And she said, why? And she can take, even if you take the people to court, it will become a quasi issue because that thing will not hold water because it takes, the legislature doesn't have the adequate power to do that, to amend anything. It takes a referendum. The referendum will be taken to the people. Excuse me. The referendum will be taken to the people. The people will make the determination in terms of the threshold of who become what the number of representation as guided by the Constitution. But originally, I agree, it should be 20,000. 20,000.
That's not the issue I'm bringing up, though. I'm sorry.
You cannot do that. And I want to sit here with the experience, the reservoir of knowledge, and all that thing, even before my the analyst can come in to allow that to go. Look, we're going to people on that thing, will perforate that argument, and really allow those things to survive. I'm sorry that you will say that, my dear sister, but I think that's another way to go, and it's all constitutional to have said what you just said. Thank you.
So, Dennis, I just want to make a point of clarification. My issue is not the number, it is the imbalance. So I'm going to say this slowly just because I have a thick accent because I grew up in exile. So we have an imbalance in a disproportionate representation. So it's not necessarily about the threshold. I already said we can change that through referendum. I think we agree on that. That's clearly stated in the Constitution. What I'm talking about is if you live in Montserrado County, you have fewer representatives per capita than someone living in Bopolu or Grand Cru or Maigibi. This is a fact. If you live in Nimba, if you live in Lofa, if you live in Bong, if you live in Montserrado, you have less representation numerically than people living in the other counties. That is a separate issue from thresholds. And that issue is a grave constitutional violation because equal representation is a requirement. It is not an option. It is the constitutional structure of our country. Every citizen is a citizen. If you live in Monserrate, you are not less of a citizen than someone living in Grand Cru. But the way that they have set up these districts, that is exactly what happens. You only have 17 representatives for 1.5 million people. And then you go over to Grand Cru, where you have, about 20-something, 1,000 people represented by three people. It's wrong.
Right. I mean, that issue keeps coming up. Let me go to Mr. Sherif. Come in here. When Honorable Berrian was talking about his campaign, talk about what he did in the district. Talk about the building of schools.
No. But the issue is that those are all trivial issues. I was just trying to pass on. But the big issue what we're over there for was lawmaking, and that's what I did, big law. And because government could not come in to assist, to do the thing, so I had to come in to improvise to make sure that our people have something. So the issue of baby is that my cardinal function. I was just giving out to back to people because government could not come to do other things. We hold that. I know often. Thank you.
No, what I said that is, I mean, you also stated that even the people, when you go to the people and say, this is what I would do, these are my cardinal funds, that's not what they listen to. They will vote for you based on what you do, on what you give them. And even when you are a representative, it's based on those projects. There is a website that keeps track on the projects by legislature because they promise them. And if you can read this, this is analysis of the campaign promises per elected lawmakers. You may not be able to read that clearly, but I can read that for you. And this is from the NIMOT website. In Bond County, Representative Mohamed Briggs Mensa of Electoral District 6 made 13 campaign promises, of which 5 were rated completed, and 8 promises are ongoing. Representative Robert F. Wongba of Electoral District 4 made 12 promises, 5 of which were completed, 6 promises are ongoing, and on and on and on. Those are all projects, infrastructural projects, either roads or hospital or this or that, right? So my point to you, Mr. Sherif, is politics is about winning, right? You go into an election, you want to win. So you give the people what they want. Are you saying we should change their mind to say, okay, no, do not want bag of rice, or do not ask for roads, do not ask for this, just ask for, oversight and legislation? Is that what we're telling the representative to do? We're putting them in a tight position here.
Dennis, I like when you present these little PowerPoints, and I mean, it clearly shows you how many empty promises there are. And so just before I jump on that point, your question, yes, I mean, underrepresentation is unconstitutional. The people have the right to be represented. One of the things that I've found, it may not be unconstitutional, that I've found troubling is the fact that these representatives are not accessible to their constituents. They're not. So if I live in Monserrate County, I have a better chance of seeing my lawmaker or seeing my member of the House of Representatives because I can go to Capitol Hill and see him. But if I live in Grand Jita or Grand Cru, forget it. You can forget it. My representative is not coming over there during the break. He's either going to stay in Monrovia or he's going to travel to the United States or Europe somewhere to spend.
Mr. Sherif, let me stop you there. You knew you in Grand Cru. You knew this person you are voting for has never lived in Grand Cru. He's in Monrovia. So why do you expect him, after he gets the job, to go back to Cleo to go live there?
Dennis, that's an excellent question, and that is the tragedy of the Liberian experience. That is a tragedy. The problem that we have over and over and again are individuals, demagogues, who go out to campaign for these offices. They've never lived there, but as Honorable Berrian mentioned, they have the money, so they have the largesse to spend during campaign season, and they come around and they steal these positions. And I'm not using the word theft in a legal terminology. I'm using it in a political the political applicability of theft. So they go and steal these positions and they go and sit in Monrovia. So Monrovia is their first home. Europe or America is their second home, not their constituencies. This is also very, very troubling that we need some people, some good, decent, patriotic Liberians in the House of Representatives that would change that culture, the culture of underrepresentation and inaccessibility. These are troubling. So when the people are voting for their members of the House of Representatives, yes, people choose some of these representatives, not all of them, not, it's not 100%, because I don't know how much Yeke Koluba had to be elected. I don't think he had a whole lot to be elected. So, no. So some of them don't really have anything to spend, and yet they get elected. But yes, right. For the most part, it's about money and who can provide the T-shirt, who can provide the bag of rice, and that is very troubling. So one of the things that need to happen is some kind of reform of our campaign system, where you can only spend so much cash, and that will allow good and honest candidates to go through. Because the way it is right now, people are going about stealing elections in the political sense of theft.
Mr. Berrian, walk me through the work week of a representative.
What?
Walk me through from Monday to Friday.
Okay, before getting there, I just want to respond, pinch a little bit what Mr. Sherif said, because I see when you talk about accessibility, I see that as a paradox of reality. You getting me? What you define as being accessible may not be seen as accessibility to another person. What happened if that as you said, the people knew that a man was being elected from Grand Coup? To get back to Grand Coup, it would have taken some time, especially during the rain season, to get back to the people. What happened if that man sits in Monrovia and sends huge worth of thing and make sure that things are going on? He goes from probably assuming that he goes from house to house in the district and reach out to people and touch people like, even though he's not there, he stay accessible. He has created impact. So why a physical buyer could not reach, he has also reached there because of
Mr. Berrian, that's not the point. I'm sorry. Without due respect, that's not the point.
I'm trying to look at the issue when you talk about being accessible, because look, we have to take into consideration the environmental and all other basic issues that anything when you start talking about is accessible, because it is not possible, because no representative is omniscient. He's not everywhere at once. He's not God. But I think people try to do the best.
This is unacceptable.
Excuse me. Yes, people try to reach. People do the best to reach out, and reach out. But coming to the drill, let me drill you through the House of Representatives on the daily, the weekly activities, right?
Right.
On Monday, you have report from committee rooms and other business to scrutinize, review, and other basic things. On Tuesday, you make the report to plenary, and you make some proposal to some proposed bills and other basic things. On Thursday, you have committee room.
You're skipping Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday rather. On Thursday, you have another plenary. On Friday, you have constituency visitation. You getting me? Constituency people come from the district, they come to meet you, go constituency, and you go there and you go in the district to meet them like that. Okay, let's assume again. You have this man who is from Wolahu or somewhere, and then during the RCC, he can go back from October, from maybe assume from July, August, September. The road is bad. Even those smaller trucks, they can't even reach over there, and he can go. Monserrato, I was from Monserrato, but I have some friends and colleagues that were from the particular area there. And you don't even have air and other space that were operating well over there. So he gets in it, and while going back home, he broke down on the road. I have colleagues that spent 2-3 days on the road going back to their constituency there. You're going back home. On Friday, on Monday, he should be back to Capitol Building. And then on Tuesday, he gotta get back to work. If he's not there, his district will not be adequately represented. Some of the things will pass over his district or pass over his county. So you see, when we
let me get it clear. You say on Monday they have report from committees.
On Monday we have report. You have leadership meeting on Monday. Leadership has a meeting, and committee report, committee room, other things I also mentioned, and some of the stuff from that particular week I also discussed on that particular leadership meeting.
What is the leadership meeting?
Standing committee heads. Standing committee head. You have different type of committee. You have statutory committee. You have statutory committee heads, and some standing committee and co-chairs. So all of them from leadership. And sometimes the leadership will make up a 20-some person or 30-some person make up the leadership.
Tuesday is plenary.
Tuesday plenary. Wednesday you also have another committee room meeting, other things that you. Then Thursday you have plenary. You also have visitation on Friday. Saturday, you know that some people there's no work, no official schedule except for extraordinary things. You can assemble.
So the visitation meaning people from your county,
people from your district are allowed to come. People from your district are allowed to come, and
to your office or to your house.
To your office. But look, some people go to your home, some people go to your home, and you in return, you can from that Friday, you have the time to go to your district. But I will go to my place. People in Montserrat will go to that place. It's totally certain part of Montserrat County, like way back in Virginia, from way Addington on the back over there, reading over there, especially for the person from District 17. That's District 17. Yeah. That person may not even be able to go certain area over there because the rule, everything is. But why it is. When you in Montserrat County, you have access to your people. At least you can move in terms of mobility. You are
more accessible
than the people that are in the rural. That's what I want.
That's the point Mohamed was making.
Yeah, that's make it, because when you talk about accessibility, you cannot generalize everything, because the time and frame, the time and opportunity the man in Montserrat has, or maybe in Magibi, RIA and other places like that, or Kakatan City, we have to meet the people. The guy in Lokatuo, the guy way in the border Butuo, other places, other places that he need to go into town, he might not have the time because of road condition and other climate related challenges and stuff like that. So it's not all equal, Mr. Sherif. So when you talk about accessibility, I don't want to get generalize it that no. We got to be able to segmentize it local. Right. The people are accessible to the people in Montserrat County. It may not be like that's why the house goes on a break. When the house goes on breaks, and then we have a break like that after 3 or 4 months or something like that, people go and spend about 2 months in the district. When they're in the rural district in that 2 months, because the house is on break, they will take that time to go around the whole county or the whole district. And that's just how it works like that. But it's not easy. It is not just automatic, as you see. Not everybody have the same thing like that. But before I conclude, can we come back to the issue of the numeration and the constitutionality and the number? Look, let me tell you something. It will be difficult to have total number of equal representation looking at the demographics, especially with rural county. Look at Nima County alone. Nima County is the second populated county electoral wise. And Montserrat County 1.22. They assume that you say that after every 20,000 person.
It doesn't have to be 20,000 people.
No, the Constitution say that. The Constitution say 20,000. Let's stick to the 20,000. Montserrat County will get pretty close to almost 100, almost 100 or more representative. Montserrat alone, because you get 1.3 million human beings in that place. 20,000. And second, you do not have the budget for that. You don't have the budget for that.
Oh my God.
And I try to play the devil advocate here.
Don't play devil advocate. Just speak your mind. The devil doesn't need an advocate, my brother.
I'm trying to say just
the devil is very busy.
We'll
come to the legislation part, but Mr. Sherif, you wanted to respond when Mr. Berrian was talking, so go ahead.
Yeah, so this issue of accessibility, and I'm still going to stick on that, because Honorable Berrian said that you can't generalize, because if you talk about places like Lokatuo and Butu and whatnot and so on and so forth, meaning that in the very interior of the country, that somehow we must excuse those House of Representatives, members of the House of Representatives that are not able to get there because of road conditions and other environmental factors. You know what? I don't care. I don't care why, because this is the job that you ran for. You got elected to represent those people. And if you're not able to get to Plebo, if you're not able to get to Grand Cess, if you're not able to get to Pine Town because of bad road conditions, you need to summon the Public Works Minister. The Public Works Minister needs to answer a question as to why the roads are bad. The president, so we've never seen anything like that. So when is the time that the members of the House of Representatives are going to play their role as oversight leaders of these three, among the three branches of government? They have oversight. They have the constitutional responsibility to ensure that we have good roads, to ensure that we have good drinking water. So it seems like from the Honorable's explanation, we have to excuse them for all of this. And lastly, Dennis, he mentioned that, if we go by the constitutional provision on equal representation, Montserrado County will have about 100. So be it until the Constitution is changed. So now we're allowing a constitutional violation just because the budget is not.
Because they want to pay themselves ridiculous money.
That is correct. That is correct. And their vacation is all over the place. Maybe if we cut down the vacation, why not? You have
the exorbitant pay is more important than the Constitution.
No. I can't
hold on, Mr. Berrian.
Legislator. I know I can sit here.
We'll get to you. Let's the start.
Dennis, the budget is available. The money is available. Liberia, let nobody tells you, Dennis, that Liberia is, let nobody tell you that Liberia is poor. Liberia is not poor. This is a very wealthy country. The issue that we have is bad management. So yes, the funds are there to be able to pay the 100 representatives that Montserrado will have if that's the case, right? The Constitution says so, but now we're allowing ourselves, we're allowing our leaders, our executive lead, our legislative leaders, executive leaders, and the judicial leaders to violate the Constitution under the pretext that there are no funds, to give people their rights. This is how far we've come as Liberians. And as Liberia, and I want to thank all very much for pointing this out. This is something that a lot of Liberians don't even know about. And so, because of Call that she brought this up, I think a lot of people are going to watching this show tonight are going to be very grateful that they watch this segment.
Thank you. Call go ahead, because I want
to.
So
Article 80. Article 80
functions of the.
I'm sorry, Dennis, I'm not hearing you. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it was breaking up. Article 80, Section D says each constituency shall have an approximately equal population. Approximately does not mean a 20,000 human being difference. The approximate equal population of 20,000 or such number of citizens as the legislature shall prescribe in keeping with the population growth and movements as revealed by a national census. I want you to think about this. This doesn't even require, I was wrong. It doesn't even require a referendum. It just requires a census to change the number. So Article 80, Section D is saying that the legislature, because of population growth, can say, we're going to have one representative for every 50,000, every 100,000 people, because we cannot afford more. There's no reason to argue that Montserrado should have 100,000 citizens. Article 80, Section D of the Liberia Constitution gives them the power. These people are extremely powerful. They can change it. They don't want to.
Before you continue, let's say 100,000 persons or 80,000 persons
Yes.
per representative. Let's say Grand Crew doesn't have that. So does that mean Grand Crew have to join with Sino to have one representative? Is that
So this is why you have a house of wise, honorable men and women. They are supposed to not focus on Liberia in an hour or 2 hour segment, solve Liberia's constitutional crisis. But my point is they don't want to. There's nothing wrong with Grand Crew with the legislature saying each county should a minimum get one representative, even if they don't reach 100,000. I don't think that is because that's still approximate, because Grand Crew, I think the least populated county has like over 80,000 people. So it is very close, right? They could set the threshold at 50,000. The bottom line is it is absolutely wrong to have one citizen represented at 50% of what another citizen is represented at.
Okay.
The second thing, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your thought, because I think we're missing something here. The lawmaking representation oversight. So if we have a house that some people call do nothing, even if you have 3 senators, 1 senator, what difference does that make if they are not doing anything?
The first thing is, the big difference that it makes is that we're a country of laws, not what we think, not what we want to do, not how we feel. We're a country of law. That Constitution is what makes Liberia Liberia. That's what makes us a country. So the difference that it makes is we cannot exist in violation of our Constitution. We cannot take tax money, payers' money, and pay people in violation of our Constitution. That is what we are doing. And they're more focused on increasing how much they earn than doing their constitutional duties. And then they want to blame the citizens. They want to blame the citizens who are not empowered as they are. You want my Enter Rosaline Nganta to think for you? You're receiving more money than she's held in her entire life on a monthly basis. And she should be making these decisions for you? This gives you an incredible responsibility to your country. You're not there to pander to the needs of people who are misguided. You are there to, when you took office, you didn't take an oath to your constituents. You took an oath to the Constitution. Am I lying? Was it not the Constitution you swore to uphold? If you're a Christian, you put your hand on the Bible. If you're a Muslim, you put your hand on the Quran. And you swear to uphold the Constitution, not to pander to people who calling for bag of rice. There is a reason for that. Because the people who are trying to manipulate you, those constituents that voted for you, they should not be able to manipulate you to violate the Constitution. Your political party should not be able to manipulate you to violate the Constitution. Your oath is to the country. And if everyone takes their oath seriously, they will do their job seriously. You didn't take an oath to my Enter Rosalie Nganta. You took an oath to the Constitution. So if my Enter Rosalie tell you to go see to build school, you don't see to build school. If my Enter Rosalie doesn't know how you're supposed to allocate resources to build better public schools in Nganta, you're supposed to know the constitutional provisions the power that you have to allocate proper resources to Nganta. I'm not speaking to you because you're a former Maserado senator. I'm talking about where I'm from, okay? They're supposed to now say, okay, we have to fight to allocate adequate resources to the Ministry of Education so they can build better public schools in rural areas. That is what's supposed to happen. And they're supposed to summon them if they're not doing their jobs.
Thank you, Cole. And that's my question to Honorable Berrian, right? Because we say the 3 cardinal functions of the lawmaker: lawmaking, representation, and oversight. So when it comes to lawmaking, you want to come in before you want to respond to Cole before I go ahead with the question?
Let me respond to our sister.
All right, go ahead.
I know, yeah. I don't want to say I'm sorry that our sister have been out of touch for the country for all the period for a protracted period of time. And
I haven't been out of touch. I just left there. Don't say that. Because I grew up in exile. But I'm Liberian, I thank you.
Going to Liberia doesn't mean you have.
I live in Liberia. Ask question. Don't make assumption.
Hello. No, because you
I have a house. I got a farm. I got things going on.
That doesn't mean you stay. You are in touch with the practical issue.
Go ahead, Julius. Go ahead.
You see, I listened to our sister very well, and she was very crystal. And she said, "Look, Article 80D," and she said approximately, and blah 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 blah. And she the phrase, and later on she wanted that phrase and to do. She said, in fact, she said it doesn't even need a referendum. It needs a censor. It's just a censor. Then I'm baffled when I heard. I got baffled when I heard such a thing that our sister would say that. Then I knew that. Then
I'm not saying no. The Constitution says it.
No, let me tell you how the process works. I'm sure Mr. Sherif he's smiling internally because he know that this is the red path that Berrian is going now. He's right to insist what he's saying now. So that is how it works. The people, after a censor is done, it is submitted to the legislature from the president, and before any change is made, if a change will affect the Constitution, then the legislature have to pass on that censor, that report of the censor, and then it will be sent for referendum. It's just not only a censor, my dear sister. So that's a school of food for thought over there. I leave it there. I'll pass over there, and any additional thing I will come back and to help you go out to other people. But look, the thing about it, bro, Ja, I want us to discuss the thing. Look, I'm not a representative or the spokesperson of the legislature yet. No, I came here for us to, we have to exchange ideas. I'm not the spokesperson of the legislature. Mm-hmm. I'm not even to do it. I'm talking. I'm just being factual. What I know.
Can I ask him a question?
You'll come with your question.
I just want to ask a question for clarity.
That's my position. I'm not a spokesperson of the legislature. Spokesperson will come here to speak to issues, but from the experience I've had and what I know, what I have seen, that's what I'm giving here. And I want us to keep away because you see, many a time people just use assumption to create a dark cloud over the legislature. Oh, they are all money doubler. Oh, they are only there to make money. They are there to raise salary for themselves. They are there to something. So people just here's the conclusion, here's the generalization of the legislature as a whole. But here as it may be, your question was in terms of what? Lawmaking, right?
Lawmaking.
What do you want to know about lawmaking?
Right. So most of the time the laws you make. So okay.
Can I ask a question before you go to the next topic? Because it's in line with what he said. I just want to get clarity on something.
Yeah, get
the Constitution does not. Which part of the Constitution is calling for? One question is which part of the Constitution is calling for a referendum in this case, because it doesn't say it. And the second part of the question is your argument is that it can't be changed. However, Montserrado County is represented by 67. It's not 20,000. It's 67,000 people for every one representative. So if you're saying that it calls for a referendum, then what referendum allowed the legislature to give Montserrado County 17 seats and have 67,000 people be represented by one person? Where was the referendum that passed that?
It was
a referendum. How is that?
It was the referendum that was census was done around 2008. Hold on, the census was done 2008. Before then, the legislature I think 63% in the House of Representatives when Ellen got into power. After the census was done, there was a need because look at the population size, and and that was the time that indeed a referendum was done. And a census was done. After the census was done around 2010 to 2011 over there, you have what you call the demarcation.
Redistricting.
It was done. When they did the redistricting, there were in additional 10 seats. Additional seats were given across the country.
Was there a referendum was the question?
Yeah. But you know what? It was done. It was done through a censor all through the whole process of
What was
referendum.
the referendum?
No, you cannot make any amendment to the Constitution except through a referendum. Man.
But it's not a no referendum. You can change the number
before anything is done to amend the Constitution.
So Julius, the reason I want to clarify this, my brother. Let me explain what I'm trying to clarify.
Let me conclude.
Mr. Berrian, hold on. Was there a referendum after the census?
No.
It was a referendum after the census because excuse me now. Afterward, you even have you have 50 plus 1. One of the things that the referendum brought over there was 50 plus 1. Before then, if two representatives or two people were contesting for the senatorial race, that's how you have the 50 plus 1 vote for the presidency. If the representative went into it and nobody got 50 plus 1, they were to go to second round.
Right. No, Julius.
And afterward, listen to me. And afterward, then whoever comes on with a higher number.
No, I get that. That was in the referendum. I remember that.
I'm specifically talking about a referendum. The Constitution does not require a referendum.
I will find it for you.
Let me say this. I'm looking at the Constitution, Dennis. It's just Google it, for God's sakes. It's free. It's online. Let me say this. Please.
Am I done?
Information. We have people, we have students that watch this show. I just want to make sure we're giving correct information.
Don't Google it. You can get a copy on Amazon.
You can get a copy on Amazon. You can whatever. If you want to look at it right now, get a PDF. Listen, the Constitution, as long as you're within the threshold between 100,000 and 20,000, there's no need for a referendum. The Constitution does. If you to change the Constitution would mean you would go outside of that threshold of 20,000 to 100,000. You can't say that, we redistricted and we had a referendum, because there was no referendum. They redistricted before the 2011 election. That's when they changed the districts in Nimba and Montserrato. It was before the election, so there was no referendum preceding the election.
I will get.
So I just want to make that clear for the young people who are listening, because this I know for a fact. The other thing is, there is no constitutional provision for the disparity in representation. It is unconstitutional. You have 67,000 people for every one representative in one county and 23,000 for another representative in another county. Nothing in the Constitution allows that.
Thank you. We've been joined by our chief political analyst who's joining us from Monrovia, Mr. Wilmot Kunney.
Mr. Kunney.
Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Good evening, though. Well, is it good evening? It's good morning on my side here.
Wow. I can see like you just woke up from bed.
You just woke up from bed. We just got to work. The main
Jordan. The light shining, the only light in the whole community that on a horse.
Yeah, the main Jordan. The man pop boiling.
I'm sorry for coming in late. My alarm let me down. So
welcome. Anytime we get you, we're happy. Mr. Kunney, we are talking about the representative. You are on the ground, Monrovia. What is the vibe? What are you hearing about the House of Representatives? What is it that the Liberian people feel and they are saying about those lawmakers, especially House of Representatives?
Well, then before I address that question, because let me do what I had intended to do had I been here on time. Honestly, I wanted to start this session with my Tabata. I recognize your role as the moderator. The only person I ever compare you to is Wolf Blesser. But I think beginning the new year, this show tonight is the first Tabata. The topic under discussion, with all due respect to our studio guests, in view of everything that is happening in the political world, Dennis, for you to bring us here tonight to discuss the legislature when the political world is burning, I think that the greatest Tabata
Oh, Mufanya.
that you've ever put together. Then to do it for the first time.
I disagree.
I disagree as well.
The first time in a new year, when you see that our potential government in waiting is burning, the disintegration, the chaos, the anarchy, the absolute failure of leadership on the part of Joseph Human Boakai, for us to leave it here and talk about the legislature, I think you put a real disgraceful tabata on us. And for us to get up to discuss it today, I just wanted to start that this is my tabata, and I will have no regret if you don't ask me at the end of the show for my tabata.
Thank you.
So,
but who forced you to come to Darling today?
and my contribution here will be the highlight of that tabata, because the Liberian people have been told, the Liberian people have been informed that the reason why we should elect a 79-year-old is he's a leader. He knows how to lead. He knows how to fix things. He came here and promised us that if you return to Liberia, you will face the crisis. Maybe promises mean nothing. You make that promise that he will face the crisis in the CPP when he returns to Liberia. And for Joseph Human Boakai to return to Liberia, for the CPP to continue to be mired in crisis, and now they are suing one another, that leadership is nowhere to be found. And the reason why this is important to me is not only because of the failure of his leadership. There is something that is emerging in the CPP that is a real political lesson. You will find that the 1% in the CPP is the one that is pulling the shot, and Mr. Boakai, who has 38%, is following. It is Mr. Berrian Ure who spotted the fingering of the document, and Mr. Boakai followed. No one talk about block voting in the CPP until the 1% men say we have to do block voting.
Thank you.
Nobody talk about leaving the CPP until the 1% men say, you know what, we have to leave the CPP, and Mr. Boakai follows. This is a dangerous lesson, and we have to let the Liberian people know. And I've always said, the old man, in my view, he's not fearful. I disagree with his political skill, but one of the reasons why most people are suspicious of his bid for leadership is that he cannot make decisions by himself. He doesn't lead. There are people that are in the dark that will be making a decision. So watch the trend. Anything the 1% say, Mr. Boakai buys. So I think that's the tabata. And my brother, welcome in studio. Now you ask me about the House of Representatives. Let me go to the House of Representatives.
Okay, before you go there, I don't see what is happening that the place is on fire. Suing someone that goes on a daily basis in Liberia. And so if one millionaire sue another millionaire in Liberia, or if the people are from the same political party and they are suing each other, let the system play out. I don't see how that's,
I don't have a problem with the system playing out, but the observation that I made, that the 1%
the observation is that this is, the skies are falling. I'm saying, no, this is a normal people, let people go to court. At least Mr. Cummings had the opportunity to go to court. My sister or my friend in Dubuson doesn't have that. So let the system play out. I don't think it's a big deal. Let them fight it out. Let's go to our topic for today, Mr. Kunney.
Yeah, okay, we'll go to the topic for just 30 seconds. The important thing about
you're calling from the mansion.
The 1% is the one that is making the decision, and the 38% is following.
Yeah,
There
that's
is no
another
leadership
topic,
here.
Mr. Kunney. Let's talk about the
Okay.
representative tonight.
Mr. Kunney, calling from the mansion?
I know Dennis is good at distraction, the intelligentsia will have to be shielded, they have to be covered when they are in their crisis. So let me leave him at that and let me go back to the topic. The topic is you asked for the House of Representatives. Everyone knows the rating that the legislature has. There are very good legislators in the legislature. Like I say, everything in Liberia is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag. So you find very good legislators and you find some not so good legislators. And this is why you see over time, I think the turnover rate in the legislature is about 50%. Almost at every election, it is 50%. So election is coming. The Liberian people, they are making their decision. Those who feel that the representatives are not doing what they're supposed to do, they are planning to put in the alternative. And those who are doing well may be returned. But I think if you go by the history of elections in the legislature, the turnover rate is almost like 50%. And that's how we know how the public is kind of gauging the work of the legislature.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Berrian, let me go to you on the legislation part, right? Because the laws people make, sometimes the attention is drawn to the huge salaries. And I think you agree that the House is being overpaid, maybe for nothing. But on the laws that they make, because take for instance the one that was signed that gave a Firestone so many years, 6 cents per acre. So there are still laws that are being passed that affect us now and will affect us generations to come. So you're muted. Tell me about when you were there, the legislations that were passed or those that were passed into law, and to what extent has bad laws being passed by the House of Representatives affected the country?
Look, you wouldn't have me on that to look at the legislature and say just say bad law. Bad law.
There are some bad laws, right?
I wouldn't go there. Trust me. Look, I told you at first. Look, I did not come as a public relations officer of the national legislature. I came here based on experience and I've had and sharing on our own experience and how we think the country can get better legislatively like that. So I'm not yet in defense or pro the legislature. So I'm here to set the premise that look, I was there and to do look, but policies are formulated to impact the country and generations to come. Be it as it may, if the policies are not contemporarily driven to take the people to level 1 to level 2, those policies become bad, relatively challenging, rather, let me put it this way, because sometimes it may not be necessary. And why at this legislature, there are a lot of legislations that were passed, amendment to some of the legislation that were passed on the 40, the 50, to some of the concepts, but they just name the name there. And don't talk about Mental, because when Mental came, when the agreement was signed, I wasn't in the legislature at that time. It came way around 2008 or 2000 something. I wasn't there at that time. But look, trust me. That's what I said. I said something here. I said, look, it is important for us to know, to start setting the path right in a rightful position now. Let's get involved with some legislation to civics, sensitize our people, educate our people.
Mr. Berrian, let me interject.
Let me just conclude. Let me just conclude. Can come in.
Right.
Educate our people.
Yeah.
On every front of the divide, on all sides of the divide, to get to understand about the basic civics and other things. Who you elect, the consequences of electing people, other emotions, or all of coins and other basic issues. We need the Constitution needs to be taught in school from secondary school, from primary school straight to secondary school, and we also need to bring some of the basic legislation to be taught in school. Look, if we do not do it, trust me, I still foresee some people getting into the legislature over there that are not prepared.
Thank you. So will you agree? Will you agree that when the bylaws being passed or the legislation being passed over there negatively impact the country even today?
But all laws do impact
negatively. I'm talking about negatively.
People, whether negatively or positively, all laws, whatever way, all law, it either take you one step down or more, or 2 steps higher or more. So that's what. And some of the laws, we should be very realistic to ourselves. Is the law needed now? So imagine, okay, let's assume that.
All right, I understand you're going to leave very soon.
Yeah, I try to be very, very professional here because I just don't want to say things to endanger some of our colleagues there, and I try to be very professional here because I served there before, and I don't want to blackmail anybody whatsoever. I still respect.
You're trying to protect someone, or you're trying? What is it? You're trying to?
No, I'm just trying to because we need to understand the legislative doctrine. The legislative doctrine, look. Once a lawmaker, you're always a lawmaker. You cannot. No
so
matter how.
Don't talk their secret.
It's not about secret. There's nothing about secret. What about secret?
Yeah, what I'm asking
except you want to tell me the secret that you're talking about, then I can better
because you are tap dancing around the question that says, if you know of bad legislation that is getting the country, just recently the ArcelorMittal agreement, okay, and the people are saying something that doesn't make any sense, and people are passing these things. So from your experience, do you know of bad legislation?
I think I told you about the ArcelorMittal. I wasn't in a house.
No, I'm not blaming you. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And even people I met there, even with our colleagues now, I still believe that there are some amendments that need to be made to the section that is before then.
Thank you.
There's some positive to be done. Yeah. I still believe that there are some things that need to be changed in that particular section. A lot of things that I have seen. But I have gone behind the scene and told some of my former colleagues, we cannot go this way. There's a need to do X, Y, Z. We cannot have giving our poll, because look, you talk about job creation. You talk about job creation.
Berrian, I know your time is fast spent, so I have 2 questions for you, and then you can make your final comment so we can take leave of you. Do you have any experience with brown envelopes in the house as a form of lobbying? If you saw anybody doing it or anything of that nature?
The answer is no.
Okay.
What's the definition of brown envelope? What's your definition of brown envelope?
You're asking me for my definition?
Yes.
Oh, you said no already, so let's leave it at that.
No, you said
that is cool water. It's called it used to be cool water when I was a child. Cool water.
If you come into the interview, so my man, have you seen a green writing pad? This is a brown writing pad. And a brief writing pad. So I want to understand your definition of a brown envelope, with the context of the brown envelope you're talking about.
Lobby. They call it lobby, where they give cold water for you to vote certain way.
Lobby, no, you're talking 2 things here now. You're talking about bribery and you're talking about lobbying. That's so because people lobbying became legal. They're in there, people go to Washington, they lobby there. Excuse me.
We didn't talk Washington. Let's talk like
So no, I want you to be very, very
of lobbying in the house.
Are you talking about bribery?
Let's go to lobbying. Give me an example of lobbying. Where
there are lobbyist group around that book. Like this one time we saw that the guy from CNN, he's a lobbyist. He's based in Washington, and I think you saw Matanya McGee and other CDC guys.
No, I'm talking about in the house.
You see the lobby?
Do people come in the house? Do people come in the house to lobby and they give money?
No. People can come. That's only from my district. If there's a law on the floor, people can come to lobby with me. So, I saw this kind of thing, and I don't think it's good for our district. I'm from your district, they come to lobby. You don't have to bring money. That's what I'm there for. When they come to lobby. I put the agenda on the floor.
No, I'm talking about like the president, Mrs. Ali was very known for that, lobbying with money. Come to the place and lobby. We saw that in the
I don't know much about I don't know much about Manasani coming to lobby.
All right.
So
Thank you so much.
I hope I have an idea on that.
I think I understand Honorable Berrian is about to leave because he had another engagement.
Yeah.
There were two.
8:45.
Yeah.
The next question, my brother. The next question.
Cole, you have a question for?
So I see all the questions because I answer all the questions, man. And angelic manner too. Mr. Sherif.
That's why I'm picking on you. There were two very important acts passed during the tenure. The Financial Intelligence Unit Act was passed in I think 2012, and then you also had the Land Authority Act, creating the Land Authority. You also had around that time also the Transportation Master Plan was also signed into law. So those are, I think you said you were on the Transportation Committee, or you chaired it at one point.
I said I'm on a
member of the committee. So of the three acts that I mentioned, are you familiar with any of them enough to be able to tell us how
I would tell you because look, when the Assemblemental a concession was made around 2008, because there was something about railroad in there, because in that thing over there, I was in one of the meetings of the committee. Well, we talked, look, there's a need to expand our transportation network and make sure that mental state to the board in that we can even use the railroad from Nima or Grand Bassa and even reach it to Monserrado as well. So we can even have two of the railroads, one definitely for settlement to move on, and the other tracks can be used for other commercial train and transit purposes. Those are one of the things that I was in that meeting on the proposal on that. So the act you see over there, if you go into the details of the act, it talks about railroad and other basic things. And I hope I had time, but because of the my other engagement, I'm sorry I couldn't. Right. But I appreciate if you were to give me a call and to come back on the show and we can discuss politics now as well, other basic things, and we can pick up from there. But I'm sorry, though, but
thank you.
The land commission, because we already have a lot of it was I even established the land authority because a lot of dispute of land. You don't know one of the situations where you had in South Africa, Botswana, or Zimbabwe, or the land dispute because people are talking about land and land's right. And looking at equity on the particular land, other thing, because accounting why land doesn't depreciate. Land will continue to appreciate. So the issue of land will become another struggle here if we are not mindful. So when we look at the issue, that's how we brought about the act, established the land authority, the Land Authority Act to how it compete oversight on that. But trust me, there are one or two challenges with the agency as well. But I think we're gonna get there and gradually. But so cool. Thanks a lot, Cole family, for bringing some of those things out, and I'll be willing at any given time to expand expeditiously on those particular basic things. I think we can have another time again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What we
invitation, Mr. Sherif, and
Mr. Kunney. Before you go, Mr. Berrian, every Thursday we come here, we have a session called the Tabata Session.
Look, give me anytime, just give me 1 or 2 days, give me a prior notice 1 or 2 days, and let me go, especially for politics, the contemporary politics, because I want us to discuss the CPP, the opposition plan, and this one. I feel so comfortable discussing it because that's where I live. That's what I do. That's what I feel. That's the atmosphere. The land I live in for us to discuss it. And I think I'll be
you'll be hearing from me. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, colleagues, and it was a pleasure having you guys and interacting with you guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia Tough Talking Thursday. Mr. Kunney, we'll take a short break. When we come back, do we actually need the House of Representatives? Are they doing the work they're supposed to do, or we need a smaller number? There are some suggestions out there. Some say, well, we need temporary, for the lack of a better word. They should come do work and just disperse. We can't have them all year paying them. Some say, we just need one house, not bicameral. We should have just one. Maybe every county represented by 2 persons, and all these things out there because they're making a lot of money. But we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to read comments and then let Mr. Kunney talk to us about something besides the CPP.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia. From education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology, Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. Mr. Kunney, do you think there are some changes needed in the House of Representatives?
To be honest with you, I mean, when you talk about changes, my scope is not just only the House of Representatives, and maybe this is where sometimes you think I lost my way, because my original advocacy has always been to look at the governance structure of our country. The entire governance structure needs to be analyzed. And, let us ask ourselves, do the country really need this colonial, imperial, highly centralized political system that we have, where power is based in Monrovia? We need to put that for discussion. I'm not saying, because if we put that kind of topic for discussion, it gave us the opportunity to examine the entire government. Every time we cry about the imperial presidency, but we have not had a serious national discussion on what is this imperial presidency. People, they develop slogans around it. But the imperial presidency is located within a highly centralized political system that is based on Monrovia. And it is this system that preys on the rest of the country. So you don't only have the imperial presidency, you have an imperial legislature as well. So the question is, do we really need the legislature as it is today? And for you to say, no, we don't need the legislature as it is today, or we need it, depends on the kind of governance structure we want. If we have an effective decentralization of authority in the country, where we carry governance closer to the people, where most of the decisions to govern our people are made by our people at the local level, then we can also argue that the legislature itself need to be looked at, to be reformed as to whether we need a bicameral, whether we need a full-time legislature. I'm saying this is not just one box for us to check. I'm saying let us look at this structure of government that we've had since 1847. Let's see the benefits that we've accrued from it, that we enjoy from it. Let's look at the benefits of other systems. We're talking about concession agreement here. In other situations, Nimba County will be the most beautiful place to be in Liberia. That is it has the resources of the country, a good portion of the resources of the country. The Southeast will be beautiful. Cape Town will be beautiful. All of these places will be beautiful. But guess what? The resources from these regions of the country, they are removed from where they are and brought to Monrovia for consumption. And nothing happened in those counties. So we got the polygons, we got this, we got that. So for me, it's a broader conversation.
And that's you are right.
The country need to have.
You are correct. We'll read a few comments and then we draw this down. Mami Esther Tapi Mose, most of them run to enrich themselves, meaning the legislators now. See all these people with big mansions, while the people who voted for them in so much poverty. Dwight Ford, Liberian voters don't vote on ideology, but rather on popularity, fanaticism, rise, T-shirts, King Jews, and 500 liberty. Lucretia Nelson, they have no interest in the people that voted for them but themselves. The lawmakers should be advocating for their citizens and making laws that would be in their best interest. Phil West, the confirmation of reliability and complacency from members of the House of Representatives are just incomprehensible. These people fill their bellies and stand for absolutely nothing. Kadia Jesse, Carl, what you're saying is right, but the exact opposite is of interest to Liberians. Liberians want to create more counties vis-a-vis more representatives. Liz Lamin Famule, the saddest part, I'm not even sure civics, the functions and responsibilities of government are still being taught in schools in Liberia. So many of our people don't hold their elected officials accountable. Francis Wilson, Yeyia move among the people. Half of the people in District 10 probably have no idea who this man is. Bad roads, and you are not making budgetary appropriation for roads, Mr. Berrian? That's the question from Dr. Seaton. Flomo Livingston, if the roads are bad, why can't they appropriate money in the budget for road development for each county? Well, these are a few of the comments. Our time is fast spent here. What do we see as the solution to everything that we've said? Call, you start.
I think the solution is just, I always say this, understanding education. I listened to Mr. Kunney. I couldn't disagree with him more in his assessment of the structure of our government. I think the structure of our government is profoundly correct. It's actually, as I said earlier in the show, it's based on our own traditional structure of our traditional empires in Africa, the checks and balances. There is no civilization without centralization. Decentralization is through representation and satellite offices. It's not that the government's structured incorrectly, it's that the people who are in charge of the government are not exercising their powers correctly. So the flaw is not in the design or the structure, the flaw is in the implementation. And so the Constitution is profoundly powerful, balanced, and empowers the people. If the representatives and senators were doing the right things, the correct things, the constitutional things, if they were upholding the oath that they take to the Constitution, resources would be allocated in a much better fashion that would hold the executive to book. We do not have an imperial presidency. The legislature is more powerful than the president. They have the ultimate check and balance. Again, if the legislature was functioning properly, we wouldn't be having, a lot of the discussions we're having about the president. The solution is to educate the population, is to inform the population. And by what I mean by education. You don't have to go to university to understand your power as a citizen, what your vote represents and how that directs the future of your country. And so it is the responsibility of citizens ultimately to push civic education, because if someone is in charge of government and it's benefiting them for people to remain ignorant, they have no incentive to inform people. This is where civic responsibility and civic duty comes in. If you're a citizen like Dennis Ja, born in Liberia, and you see that your people are not getting the information they need, and you create a platform and you bring people on to inform your people, that is Dennis Ja performing his civic responsibility as a citizen of Liberia. So we do need to emphasize this. When one village puts money together to send one person to school, that person has an obligation to do something for the people that put hands together to empower them. They're empowering you so that you can empower them. It is the same concept with sending someone to the House of Representatives. They are empowering you so you can empower them. So the problem is not that the people are empowering them. The problem is they are not empowering the people that sent them there. And the solution, again, it lies for this in the hands of the citizens who have been given by the right of their position, been given the responsibility to share the information they have and to shed light on their fellow citizens and bring them up to where they are.
Thank you. And we're talking about the referendum 2011, and one was a proposal to cut in half the minimum of 10 years residency requirement for presidential and vice presidential candidates set forth in Article something something. Second, a proposal to move the upcoming elections from October to November. And the third one was to eliminate the absolute majority rule under Article 83 as a minimum threshold to win an election for a seat. I don't recall that the redistricting was part of the referendum, but just to add that. Mr. Kunney?
Yeah,
you were saying something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
Yeah, before you come, let Mr. Sherif come and give his solution. We almost out of time. Mr. Sherif, 2 minutes, and then Mr. Kunney.
Yes, Dennis, there is greed and the thirst for wealth, the get rich quick mentality that has really damaged our entire political culture. And so you have someone going into the House of Representatives. I'm speaking particularly now House of Representatives because it shows about the House of Representatives. And it's not just the House of Representatives. You can look at any branch of the government of the Republic of Liberia. You have people going into the House of Representatives whose basic aim is to get paid, to get wealthy. It's not about the people. So there is no patriotism, right? And how do you remedy this kind of situation? One of the things that need to be required, there need to be some basic minimum requirements. You must be accessible to your people. These guys very few have satellite offices in their constituent locations. Very few. And they don't even go back. So there has to be a requirement at least twice in a month or 3 times a month. You have to go back to your district. You have to visit with your people. You have to interact with your people because the members of the House of Representatives should be the most accessible to the average people than the rest of the branches. So that's something that needs to be enforced. And this whole issue of underrepresentation, it's really illegal. And so we as a nation, the nation has been run on an unconstitutional, in this unconstitutional way. And nobody, our educated elite, all of these people sit there and no one is talking about this. This is a very important issue and they're not accessible. They need to be accessible. So those basic minimum requirements. And then sometimes when you watch the debates, you come away, at least I do come away sometimes or most times, ashamed of the charade, ashamed of everything that's going on. You look at what Yeyia Koluba does. This man does not take, and I'm not just speaking on him, he's just not taking himself seriously. He is at the top of the show mentioned honorable. I want to refer to all these gentlemen and gentle ladies as honorable, but sometimes, I cannot. Sometimes, in some of my writings, I sometimes refer to them as dishonorable, some of them. And, they should be honorable people. But some of them don't behave like honorable men and women. And so, civic education, yes, civic education from elementary to high school, that is part of the solution. People don't know their Constitution. People don't know their rights and responsibilities as citizens. And the moment you start to talk about these issues and they ask you, but what are you doing? What have you done? The fact that we are around this platform talking about these issues is part of our civil responsibility, educating the people, empowering the people, because knowledge to me, Dennis, is power.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, solutions.
So let me continue my disagreement with my sister call regarding the solution. The fact that to say that our system of government, the governance structure, is perfectly set up. The only thing we have are individuals that have not performed. Look, you will always have that situation. This is why you have to continue to look at system, continue to improve system, continue to ask or challenge basic assumptions, ask questions as to whether the system we have is functioning or is functioning the way it's intended. If it is not functioning the way it's intended, then you have to review it to make the corrections. So this is why I'm saying we've been having this structure of governance since independence, and we continue to have the same problem. You talk about rules, we've been having the same problem. You talk about the bar agreements, concession agreement, it's the same problem. So I'm saying as a nation, we need to sit down and see what is contributing to this, because look, we cannot legislate, we cannot legislate good, make law that will make people be good, but we can put system into place. For example, take the issue of accountability. You take a superintendent that is appointed by the president. Look at that long line of accountability where the citizens will have to travel to hold that superintendent accountable for his action in the county. You see, but if the superintendent knows that accountability is at the local level, that the local people can so easily take decisions that affect his political opposition, then that creates a different response. And look what we're doing. People sit in Monrovia and arbitrarily determine what goes to the county. I really don't know what the variables they're looking at. It doesn't matter the size of the county. They just say 200,000 for every county. All the counties are not the same. All the counties are not equal. All the counties don't have the same population. So what makes somebody in Monrovia to just say by the stroke of the pen that it started with 20,000, initially was 20,000. Let's give 20,000 out to the county, then move to 200,000. How these decisions are made?
But you're making my point. You're basically saying the same thing, except you refuse to blame the people. The people are the
problem. These things need to be evaluated. I believe for our society to move forward, I believe the people in my region of the country must have a say on the natural resources that come from
They do have a say. That's why Fonati Kofa didn't sit down in your office.
Well,
that's your say. That's your
point. You have a question. You have a question here I want to put on the screen. Hamilton Zilli said you look very sharp. Did you visit the president's table?
Yeah, please leave my papi alone.
But what I'm saying, for example,
leave our senior brother alone.
Hamilton, the man sitting in the mansion. That's in the mansion basement right there. I know.
He put on weight, right? Look at his face. He's shining.
Yeah, the man's shining now.
All right. Let's. I
don't know you want John Mohamed in this thing. But
Mr. Kunney, just 30 seconds. Please conclude. We are out of time.
One key point. Revenue sharing. Who determines the revenue sharing between the counties and the government? The resources are in the county, they're not in Monrovia. So who determines the revenue sharing? How is the revenue sharing?
The legislature, the direct representatives of the people.
It is not working. So let's review
because the people need to be developed. There's no system, my brother. There's no system that will put in place that's going to work with dysfunctional, poorly educated people to not execute power effectively. The population needs better education. Better
we're going to have a separate show on how to fix the system.
No group of ignorant people in any proper system, in any system.
My final point.
How long will it take to make this final point?
Don't mind.
The greatest African empire, the Malian Songhai Empire, was not.
I disagree that that's
it was not a centralized empire.
That's not true.
Centralized empire.
It was a highly centralized empire.
No, it wasn't. It
was a highly centralized empire. Mansa Musa Kankan extended his power greater than Rome.
It
He was
was
the
not.
richest man on the planet because he was taxing people as far
But
away
they were
as what
not
is
taking.
modern day Liberia. He was
But
taxing
no
them
one.
in
They
gold
were
and
not taking the.
ivory.
They were
It was
not taking the.
extremely centralized. That's
Hold
why
on,
we
Cole.
don't
Hold on,
consider
Cole.
it
All
common
right.
It was
culture.
not.
It's
It was
because
not.
Let's go back. Let's go back to.
direct ancestors were not part of the
It
Muslim
was
Brotherhood.
not.
You all
Some
were
of
not
the
centralized.
resources.
But those
Some
of
of the.
us from northern Liberia, we were an extension of that highly centralized society.
All right. Thank you.
Are not
It
Thank you, Cole.
Musa didn't even know who was controlling some of those places, except that
that is
the
absolutely false.
resources were there.
That
They were not
that's not
receiving
true.
instructions. They were not receiving.
All right. We're going to go to some ads here. Send money to Africa. A safe, legal, and easy way to do that is Cash. You can visit the website cannacash.com or call 800-933-7871. Tomorrow on the Hour of Politics, interview with Margaret Dawson. She's a diaspora Liberian. We want to find out the engagement of diaspora Liberians. They are so active in politics in Liberia. Margaret will be sharing her experience and giving reason why Liberians want to be so involved, even though they are miles and thousands of miles away. Also at 6 o'clock, we have the Literary Hour with Professor K. Moses Namwe and Jackie Sayer. You don't want to miss that. On Saturday at 3, we have FOL Marketplace with Gabriel Carter and Alex Coffey. Also on Saturday, we have an exclusive interview with political aspirant Councillor Tiawan Se Gonglo. He's going to be here in the hot seat to answer questions. And
that's great.
That will be Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. the time in Liberia. Friday night debate is back on FOL. President Weah has a scholarship scheme which is headed by his presidential affairs minister, not the Ministry of Education now. Also, we have government officials actively serving in government that have their own private businesses. We have Thomas Fowler University, Prince Johnson Technical University, or whatever it is. We have the Deputy Minister of Education also have a school. Is there any clash here? Gamonde Clinton and Morris Perfect Manager Krumah will be having a debate right here. Then on Sunday, we're going to have Mr. Leo Napolo Johnson. His group is building a library or a resource center in Liberia, and his lead builder, Mr. Blige Innes and Leo Johnson, will be here so that we discuss. You don't want to miss it. It's happening right here on Focus on Liberia. Let's go around the room now and get your Tabata of the week. Mr. Kunney, besides the first Tabata you give another one.
You know what? I want to expand on the way you mean beside the first Tabata.
All right. No, you are free to give any Tabata you want. Just kidding.
Okay, since we're talking about the legislature, I think one of the Tabata I really want to highlight is the Tabata of tax waivers that has been incorporated into many of our agreements. The massive tax waiver that the Republic gave away to so-called concession business people and everything. Those tax waivers undercut the government's own ability to raise revenue to meet some of the social services that the government need to carry on, roads construction, and some of them don't make sense. There is a hotel here in Liberia that got 25 years tax write-off. I mean, a hotel. I mean, what does the hotel produce? There is an economics of tax write-off. You look at the size of the business, you look at the employment that it will generate, the kind of employment, the income taxes that the prospective employees will pay, all of that, they inform you on the tax write-off. But, we give the tax break to investors here, like somebody selling cookie, to the point where, government is deprived of revenues for it to actually implement some of the activities we're talking about. So I think that the tax write-off for businesses and investors, I think is a Tabata that need to be reviewed. Let me leave my other Tabata saying, you don't like it too much.
Darling, what would say, my Tabata of the week is that Mr. Kunney has gone to President Weah to collect his score. I don't think that is accurate. Call. What's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata is y'all attacking Mr. Kunney while he in Liberia. Don't jealous of me. Y'all jealous. No, I'm just kidding. My Tabata is excuse me, let me pronounce it correctly. My Tabata is
There you go.
my observations around the discussions of African history and the bicentennial, and everyone referring or talking about our forefathers like they were ignorant and stupid and didn't have power, they didn't know better, and all this kind of thing. I think for me, I think we can't have it both ways. We cannot dehumanize the people who brought us into being, in the ways that we do. That stuff stems. We can't look at our ancestors through the eyes of people who despise them, thinking of ourselves as we were too primitive to understand. We didn't know that when we were powerless. It is not true. The historical records are there. It is not how things went on. Stop believing a diminished picture of your history.
Okay.
This is a terrible, terrible thing that is in the forefront of the consciousness of young people in Liberia, to think that they come from ignorance and nothingness. And until we understand who we were, we will never respect ourselves. We will never have self-esteem in the family of humankind. We need to go back to the drawing board, examine the historical record, and tell the truth. The reason I got so emotional when Mr. Kunney talked about ancient Mali and the empires.
That's not part of your Tabata.
It is part of the Tabata, because it is the same line of the misinformation and the rhetoric diminishing the greatness and the power of our ancestors. If you don't know something, learn about it. Get all of the facts together. People look up to you. People look up. You have children. I'm not speaking to Mr. Kunney or any specific person. I'm talking in general. It is our responsibility that when we speak about history, we do so from an informed perspective, not from what we hear on the street or what we just imagine in our heads.
Thank you. We still have our viewers participating. Flomo Livingston, my Tabata is the legislature complaining about bad roads in the country.
And they can't do their job.
What's your Tabata of the week?
And that from Livingston is excellent. So the president meeting with the diaspora, Mr. Kunney, not once I called the president name today. All right, so don't come after me now. I'm just this is the only one time. So the president meeting with the diaspora Liberians, and one of the speakers said that he is the greatest Liberian that has ever lived. I mean, so when we're speaking, I know people get carried away, when they meet these big shots, but the greatest Liberian that has ever lived. I gave you the greatest soccer star Liberia has ever seen. I mean, we weren't around during the time of Wanim Boto, but where is the greatest star that Liberia has ever produced? I mean, there's no question about that. But the greatest Liberian that has ever lived, that is a fallacy. That is a Tabata. So that's what I feel about that.
It's offensive.
Come on.
It's offensive.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. I mean, those were sedition, right? They were all gathered around
the president is so excited to be before their president, and the emotion carrying the president.
But Mr. Kunney, you realize that they will say those kind of Tabata because
it's offensive.
For me, I'm not being
he's not even the greatest crew man.
Let's move my hair.
President Tolbert shook my hand. I didn't wash that hair for 1 week. The first time President Tolbert shook my hand, I didn't wash the hand for 1 week because I didn't want to spoil the president mark in my hand. I mean, these things people do that. You get in front of the authority. I mean, you overwhelm. Sometimes
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. So
you do understand that's history, right? That's part of history.
My Tabata is from Thomas Fowler telling the people of Lofa that they will steal in order to carry development to them. I too, I have my own Tabata of the week, and that's the whole thing surrounding this Mr. Cummings going to court being sued by another member of his own party, the CPP. And in fact, today, there blood, because the two groups from various groups, they are meeting and they are fighting. I mean, I look in the country and I see people going to court every day. There are some people at South Beach, their cases have not even been heard. And then the same people that are in this situation, they are the ones dancing to carry their political leader to court, as if nobody has gone to court in the country. I mean, my cousin was in jail and said, well, they accused me of rape, but I've been here. Nobody asked me. I'm just here. And they lie on me. And these people are just there. Mm. And now we see people are fighting, hurting one another because two political leaders, they have a clash of ego. To me, exactly. That's the biggest Tabata of the week for me.
I like that one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Tough Talking Thursday. We will now conclude by saying, we'll go around the room and get your closing comment. Don't forget, many shows coming up. And don't forget again, I think you watched the mock interview with Joseph Newman Boakai. Guess which one is coming? The mock interview with Alexander Benedict Cummings. After that, we're going to have the funeral service of the CPP all happening right here.
I'm not going. I will not attend the funeral.
And if you have a tribute,
you will sit on the front seat.
If you have a tribute during the funeral service, please email focusonlibrarian@gmail.com for your tribute to be included. Let's go around the room and our final comments for the night. We see that, and this is just part one on the legislature. There are some guys in Monrovia that are keeping tab on the actual things that are happening in the legislature. Most of the time, we only talk about their salary, but there are other deep things going on that we want to uncover. And so we're going to have the leader of NIBMOT, Mr. Eddie Jawulu, and then Matthias. They'll all be coming here and give us the inside scoop, the report on the legislature. You don't want to miss it. So this is just the beginning of our series on the legislature. Let's go around the room now and get your closing comment, 59 seconds each. Let me start with Mohamed.
Yeah, so Dennis, one time I was on a show as a listener, and there was a representative from Sino County, York County, and he was talking all these things and, flowery things, and people, appreciating me. He was getting a lot of compliments. And I asked him, I had the opportunity to ask him a question. I said, sir, can I know how much you get paid? What is your salary? And he went off on me. He went off. All these profanities and stuff. And, and then he asked me, you say, stupid people sitting here. So how much do you get paid? I said, I'll give you the website. You can check it out and know exactly how much I get paid. I sign a, code of conduct every year, and I make financial disclosures every year. It is imperative that I have to do. Otherwise, if I don't do it, the law will take care of me. But in Liberia, that is not the case. Mm-hmm. So at the bare minimum, is it too much to ask for some of these things of our lawmakers or people who are making law for us? Tonight, we didn't even talk about oversight a lot, but that is part of their function. You heard Honorable Berrian say here and told us that those guys can't go to the interior because of bad roads. Bad roads, summon the Minister of Public Works. Your job is to make sure that the government is running efficiently. Yeah. What is the Minister of Public Works doing? So you come here and complain about bad roads and giving all these excuses. And because we're giving all these excuses, that is the reason why Liberia is where it's at. So hopefully, as a result of a program like this, which is very informative, at least a segment of the population, I don't know how much, will be better informed now of the role of the legislature. And hopefully, at the end of the day, in the medium term or long term, that can lead to some positive decision on their part.
Thank you. Carl?
I just think that we need to do some serious work towards advancing the cause of our country. We've had a torch that has been passed down for many generations. through storms that are so great compared to what the challenges we face today. And the torch of our liberty, of our sovereignty is still here. It is a miracle. We should not drop that torch. We shouldn't give up on, the republic. Every one of us is a Liberian because someone chose to be Liberian. We could have very much been Guinean, we could have very much been Sierra Leonean, we could have very much been Ivorian. Our ancestors, whether they were pioneers or whether they were indigenous or whether they migrated at some point or they were, pygmies in the rainforest, like some of our ethnic people are, whatever the case, they are Liberian by choice. There were too many people suffered and died to maintain our sovereignty through the Berlin Conference, through colonialism, through the Cold War, where we were used and manipulated. It is our time to pick up the torch and do something meaningful for us and especially for the children that are coming after us. The pettiness, the shallow simplicity that we engage in on a regular basis, it's disappointing. So let us start to speak dignity back into the lives of one another. Let us start to speak courage and strength, decency, prosperity into the lives of one another through our own efforts, through our own sweat, through our own minds, through our own creativity. We're able to do it. We are still that bastion of Black excellence that our ancestors envisioned. We are the greatest Africans on the continent, and don't ever forget that. We are the first republic.
Thank you.
For us, there was none.
Thank you. There's a comment from Raphael Kezulu. Please bring Minister Tua here. Let's see if he will get away with his lies. Mr. Kunney, your closing comment, sir.
Well, I think we again need to look at the role of advocacy in our country. Some of the education we're talking about here can be obtained through advocacy, national organizations, pressure groups that come about to address national issues. I think those are some of the places that citizens get educated about their roles. One of the regrettable things about post-war politics in Liberia is that, unlike the past where you had different organizations coming together on the basis of a specific national issue to mobilize the population, you almost don't see that kind of situation anymore. There is this rush to politicize everything in our country. So by the time you start with the politics, the division set in right away. So then you can't even form a national consensus as to how to handle something that affects all of us, irrespective of politics. And my big example is this whole sanitation thing. If the city is not clean, it doesn't matter. It don't distinguish between people based on party to say, okay, that one party man coming, so I will stop smelling. So these are the things we talk about. Educate the legislature. There are a couple of organizations here that raising the awareness on the legislature, but then the fact of the matter is the activities still, nobody recognizes the activity. Everybody gravitates to the loud talkers and the people that are shouting, and nobody pay attention to them. So until we can be able to reach that point where, for example, we look at the issue of the legislature, not through partisan lenses, but through the lenses of Liberians that love their country and want to see a better legislature, you're not going to have some of these things until we can find issue-oriented discussions dominate our advocacy instead of the regular name calling and other things like that. We're not going to make progress. I keep saying the country mobilized around Abapod on gambling. That was a one-man thing. Abapod led that effort on gambling. The religious leaders, were able to mobilize the nation on some moral issues. Political leaders were able to do that. But I mean, that's something that I'm not saying it is not existing, but it's just difficult. Almost everything is politics here. I'm telling you. Sometimes if they bring the food on the table to eat, you know, the food will start and go into political parties. So we have to dial down the politics sometime and focus on these common issues. If the legislature make law, it benefit good law, it benefit all of us. So let's hold the legislature accountable to make good laws for our country, and it should not be a political discussion. And you're talking about goals.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney.
Thank you, Kunney, but you better stop talking.
It's supposed to be. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We also want to thank our viewers for staying here tonight. On that note, we're going to end with our song that always says, like, Liberia is the only country we have. So we say we are all Liberians. And I want, you know, as you listen to the song tonight, I want it to sink in a little bit more. We see that sometimes we embrace other people more than we embrace ourselves. The same thing Dennis Jai is doing, and nobody gives him credit. I'm just using my name as an example. If somebody from America or from Egypt does the same thing, we are spreading our lapas for them to work on. Let us remember we are Liberians, you know, and it will take us to change our country, nobody else. On that note, we say good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians.